Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are going deep on Crisis Jung, and this one is a trip. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it's like a crash course in Carl Jung,
Right.
but set in this crazy, like, animated world. So are you ready to explore the shadow self and all
Absolutely.
that good stuff?
Yeah, I think what really struck me about Crisis Jung is how it takes like all these complex psychological theories
Right.
and makes them visual. Like it's not just, reading about it in a textbook. It's like you're seeing it play out in front of you.
Yeah, and I think the setting itself like does a lot of the work, right? Like
Yeah.
apocalyptic world, everything's falling apart.
Uh-huh.
And you quickly realize, oh, this is Jung's mental state.
It's all a metaphor.
It's not subtle,
Right.
but it's
Okay.
effective.
Yeah. It's a really great way to visually represent like what Jung called the shadow self, all those parts of ourselves we kind of try to hide or deny.
Yeah, yeah.
So the crumbling buildings, the like distorted figures you see, those are all those darker impulses kind of breaking through.
Yeah, and then there's Maria, right?
Oh, Maria, yeah.
So she's Jung's love interest, but
But she's so much more than that,
so much more.
right? She's the anima. It's like the Jungian concept of like the feminine
Yeah,
archetype.
within the male psyche.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she embodies like all those qualities you associate with the feminine.
Hmm.
Intuition, creativity, emotional depth.
Mm.
And for Jung, she represents this potential for wholeness,
Right, right.
for integrating those aspects into his own personality.
But it's not like a simple, oh, she's here and now we're good.
Yeah,
It's like
it's a struggle.
there's this back and forth.
Absolutely.
Like love can heal, but also
But love can destroy.
destroy, yeah.
That's like the whole point of the anima. It's this duality. It has
Yeah.
this potential for healing, absolutely. But if it's not properly integrated, it can become
Danger.
an obsession, like a source of self-destruction.
Yeah. It's like he needs her to be whole, but he also has to be careful.
Exactly. You have to confront that shadow side of it.
Yeah, because it can lead you down the wrong path.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like watching this all play out, it made me think like, okay, how does this relate to like
To us.
us? Yeah.
Right.
Regular people.
Well, we all have these archetypes within us, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you have a shadow self, you have an anima or animus, and we're all constantly like
Negotiating that.
negotiating those forces. Crisis Jung just gives us like
Like a visual.
a crazy, exaggerated, fantastical lens to view these dynamics.
Yeah, it's like a funhouse mirror to your own psyche.
That is.
Like the distortions are so obvious, but
Right.
it makes you see yourself in a new way.
Absolutely. And that's just, one part of it. Like, we haven't even gotten into
Yeah, yeah.
how the series deals with like trauma
Yeah, Jung's own struggle.
and like mental health. And that's where things get
Oh, yeah.
even more intense and, even more relatable, I think, to all of us.
Yeah. And that's a good point. We're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
But, for everyone listening, how often do you run from those parts of yourself?
Those darker parts.
Yeah, the uncomfortable stuff.
Sure.
Crisis Jung seems to suggest that
Yeah.
maybe running isn't the answer. Maybe facing them head on is the only way to,
To grow.
Move forward.
Yeah. To heal.
exactly. Yeah, and that's where I think the show really dives into this idea of trauma. It doesn't like sugarcoat it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like you see these psychological wounds that have really shaped Jung, and he's dealing with these childhood memories, these feelings of like inadequacy,
Right.
fear. It's all there, and it really adds.
I think it like humanizes him in
Yeah.
a weird way.
Oh, totally.
Because it's like even Carl Jung, father of analytical psychology, still had his stuff,
Absolutely, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying before.
Mm-hmm.
We all have these shadows.
Yeah. These wounds. And the show doesn't say, like, here's the answer.
Right.
But it does say that you have to confront them.
Right.
Like, trying to bury them or pretend they're not there
Yeah.
doesn't help.
Yeah. So it's funny, right? Because you're watching this animation and Jung is fighting like literal demons and monsters.
Right.
But it's not just external.
It's internal, too.
It's all those internal struggles we all have.
Exactly. And that's kind of where the show starts to touch on those existential themes, too, right?
Yes.
You have Jung, this, like, brilliant mind
Yeah.
wrestling with, like, what's the meaning of life in this world that often feels
Meaningless here.
meaningless and kind of absurd, and it makes you think,
Yeah.
like, what do we do when faced with that?
It's the big question.
It is a big question,
Yeah.
but they handle it in this really engaging way.
Yeah. It's not just like heavy-handed and depressing.
No.
It's woven into the story, the action,
And the visuals. I mean,
and the visuals.
don't forget the visuals.
But for me, what I took away from it was that meaning isn't just this thing you find. It's
Yeah, you make.
you create it through your choices, the things you
Yeah.
do, the people you surround yourself with.
Exactly. And that's like classic Jung, right?
Yeah.
Individuation, like becoming this whole unique person.
Mhm.
It's not about fitting into some mold. It's about,
embracing all of it.
yeah, all your complexities, the good and the bad.
The light and the shadow, yeah.
Exactly. And figuring out your own path.
So I'm sure some people listening are like, okay, this is all
It's a lot.
very philosophical.
Right.
But like, how does it actually play out?
Yeah. How does it look?
Because I've got to say, the imagery in this show, wow.
Oh, it's wild.
It's like surrealism, psychedelia, and maybe even a bit of horror all mixed together.
I know, it's like a waking dream.
Yeah.
Like 1 minute, it's beautiful and ethereal, and then the next, it's,
It's terrifying.
yeah, and somehow it all works.
And it all works, yeah.
It's just this, like, visceral experience you don't forget.
And the animation style, I mean, come on.
Oh, it's so unique.
You've never seen anything
Like the way the characters move.
Yeah, they're constantly changing and morphing.
It's like their identity itself is fluid, always shifting.
Yeah. And the use of color.
Masterful.
You have these bright,
Vibrant.
almost hallucinatory moments.
Yes.
And then these stark, dark scenes. It's like mirroring Jung's emotional state.
Yeah. And it's a feast for the eyes, but it's also challenging you on all these levels.
Oh, absolutely.
But even with all the chaos,
Yeah.
the darkness, there's this sense of
Hope.
hope. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you face your shadows, embrace it all. You can find this
This strange serenity.
strange serenity. Yeah.
Like a peace within yourself.
Exactly.
And that's what makes it so powerful, you know? It's not just entertaining. It makes you want to look inward
Yeah.
to explore your own psyche.
And find meaning in this crazy world.
Yeah, even when it feels chaotic and absurd.
Okay, so we've talked about Jung's like inner struggles.
Mhm.
Right.
The anima, trauma, you know, even existential dread.
Yeah.
But one thing that really like stuck with me was how the show handles this idea of identity.
Oh, interesting.
Because it's not like this is who you are and that's it.
It's not fixed.
Yeah, it's like fluid.
Right, it's constantly evolving.
And it's really cool how they show that visually too.
Oh, yeah, the visuals in the show.
Right. Like you see Jung
Yeah.
literally like fragmenting, merging with his shadow.
It's very Jungian.
It's like we're always changing, right?
Exactly. We're all in a constant state of becoming.
Becoming, yeah.
And the things we do, our relationships, even our struggles, it all shapes who we are.
And that brings us to like this idea of freedom then.
Freedom.
Yeah, because if identity isn't this fixed thing,
Yeah.
then we have the power to choose who we want to be,
Even if those choices are hard.
even if they're painful. Yeah.
Yeah, Crisis Jung is really saying that, like, true freedom
Yeah.
comes from confronting those parts of yourself you don't like.
The shadow.
Yeah, and, like, integrating them into who you are.
So it's not about like pretending they're not there.
You know, it's about understanding them
Understanding them, yeah.
and then choosing how you react to them.
So I think for anyone listening who's like, whoa, hold on, this is
A lot of Jung.
a lot of Jung. Yeah, the takeaway is that Crisis Jung isn't just about one dude and his
Psyche.
psyche. Yeah. It's about all of us, right?
It's about those universal human struggles.
Exactly. Like dealing with our own inner,
Humans.
yeah, trying to find meaning in this world and like
Mhm.
ultimately becoming,
The best versions of ourselves.
yes. And it does it all in this visually stunning way,
Oh, absolutely.
intellectually stimulating.
It really makes you think.
And it's also surprisingly emotional.
Yeah, you really connect with Jung on an emotional level.
So as we wrap up our deep dive on Crisis Jung, what was your biggest takeaway?
I think for me, it's that reminder that even when things are chaotic, uncertain,
Yeah.
there's still beauty to be found
Mm-hmm.
and meaning to be made.
And you can find peace
Yeah, strange serenity.
when you confront your true self.
Exactly. And Crisis Jung, with all its wild animation and mind-bending ideas.
It gives you this really unique way to explore all that.
It does. It's a journey you won't forget.
Well said. And for everyone listening, remember, this isn't just about watching a show.
Right.
It's about going on a journey into your own psyche.
To understand yourself better.
So are you ready to take the plunge?